Hey, reality. So in the last one of these things, I talked a little bit about some of the ideas in our heroic fiction and kind of the stories that we tell ourselves and how those relate basically to kind of God as the hero of this particular dream. I mean, because in a sense, whoever the main dreamer is kind of the point where all the story focus and things like that within the dream would naturally, focus in and pay attention. And he naturally or she naturally basically becomes basically the locus point that basically everything kind of wraps around. But the problem is though, is that a lot of our heroic fiction and stuff that we tell ourselves now has gotten kind of crazy as far as the extremes. It's in some sense, it's a bit like God and reality basically are man and wife, or, they've been in a relationship for a really long time, 5 billion years or something like that. I mean, and at some point it's gotten almost to the point where because they exist in that state, because they are kind of white and black, they naturally, like I talked about in some of these color theory ideas, basically gravitate. And I mean, unfortunately, in the binary way, one of the first things that goes is sex. And people see it in relationships. It's this kind of idea of, at first it's pretty hot and it's awesome and, we love it all the time. But, then naturally guys tend to be hey, I want more. And, the other side is always no, I'm not that interested, and it becomes more and more of that. It's well, maybe on special holidays or, when something's going on, maybe just on your birthday now, or, I'm not interested anymore. Or, it starts to turn into kind of games. Well, maybe if you get me something nice, or, maybe if you do this thing for me, or, and after a while, after 5 billion years, it probably starts turning into quests and all this kind of stuff. And then the problem is now in these days, it's almost gotten to this point where it's heroes, they don't actually have sex anymore. Basically, we want you to do all this stuff. We want you to save the universe. What's that car going crazy there? But then at some point, it's after you've saved the universe, then we actually want you to just go away. Or, kind of stop being you. Just be one of the dudes. It's cool. And at some level, it's well then, okay, maybe we really shouldn't be in a relationship anymore. Because at some point you're kind of well, if you're not particularly interested in me much, and you don't actually want me, and everything has kind of turned into this bipolar me versus you kind of thing, well then at some point, it's well, maybe we should, go separate ways. Maybe we should see other people or something like that. Yeah, because at some point the standards become kind of impossible. Or, not impossible, but it's just why bother? It's the payoff isn't even there anymore. It's you almost don't even care. It's you like reality. Reality's nice. But when reality kind of starts to turn into this point where it's okay, well, everything should basically be about our enjoyment and everything should not be about yours. And it's well, screw you. I think I'm going to go find somewhere else. We'll go see our other folks and we'll go our separate ways and, hopefully maybe we'll both be happier. Although the problem is that in the case of God, if God were to do that, then in some sense I think reality might just kind of go and poof away or something. Or maybe the observation of all the things that are here observing it now would be enough. But the problem is though is that right now people kind of inherently believe that this is limited. They believe that this is it, that it stops, and that it all goes to cold darkness. And the problem is, if that is where all their belief goes, and the only kind of thing that is basically the source of not that, decides, well, I don't really like you anymore, then at some point, it will probably just go and go exactly where their belief says it'll go. Because a lot of this, a lot of it is really about the stories that we tell ourselves. And in some sense, actually, it's a weird relationship because reality is almost like a gal who likes being scared. It's oh, hero, come save me, I'm a damsel in distress. And it tells all these stories about oh, whoa, the horrible thing is basically happening to us. And we just need to be saved by a good and virtuous person who never really wants to, do anything with us. And then all the imagery, though, is, break the hard wang, It's all this like destroy the Tower of Sauron, which is also kind of funny, like Sor-O. I mean, that's great. Or destroy the Star Cruisers, or, basically break the staff or destroy the Death Star. I mean, it's all this kind of stuff. It's like, oh, we want you to save us, but we don't actually want a guy. We don't want all that stuff that comes with being a guy. Because in some sense, and it's like you can see this in society too. It's like sex has gotten so weird and has so much kind of like crap tied around it that it's like, it's almost become really not worth it for a lot of people, I would bet. That they're like, at some level, you're like, why? Why do I even care now? Because, then that's just kind of like a tie to basically having all this other stuff that also kind of feels like ties. I don't know. It's strange to actually not want reality. Because I liked reality for a long time, and I was like, reality's beautiful, and reality's nice and wonderful. But then at some point, you're kind of like, but if reality, like, I'm kind of like nice and I love reality and all this kind of stuff, and it's like, no, you suck, you suck, you suck, then after a while you're like, well, okay, then yeah, I really don't want you anymore.